Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run over me.
Hi, this is Jan Lewis with Be My Guest. Today we have from Ashland. She is the founder and director of Massachusetts for Safe Technology. Welcome, CeCe Doucette.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
You're welcome. And you're going to be talking about wireless risks and safe technology and probably some other things too. I didn't really realize, but I'd heard about it through the years, but then it sinks in. When Paul came back from recording your presentation, I thought, this is great. And then I believe your friend Lori contacted me. We get on. So, when did you become the founder and director?
We began this about 5 years ago, but I've been working on this issue for double that. When my children were in Ashland Public Schools, that was the time when the industry was pushing in their 21st century classroom. And good to be parents, we stepped up and started doing fundraising because our budgets were cut to the bone in Ashland. We got wireless infrastructure, iPads, Chromebooks, smartboards, minis, and what we thought was all this great new technology.
Yeah, right.
And then at book group one night, my girlfriend Wendy, who's an electrical engineer, tipped us off that it looks like there are biological effects from all wireless transmissions. So that's how I got started.
And how old were your children at the time?
15 and 18 or 19.
Yeah.
My youngest had just gone into high school, and for Christmas we gave her a laptop. My oldest had just gone up to St. Mike's with her MacBook. Mm-hmm. And when I started reading the science on this, it was actually those reproductive studies that got me on my feet. They've taken male human sperm and exposed it to a laptop with the antennas radiating, and it changed the DNA, it slowed the motility, and it caused far fewer sperm to be viable in just 4 hours of radiating it from a laptop. And I thought, you've got to be kidding me. How did we not know about this? So most of our viewers may not know that, for example, if you have an iPhone, and if you, do you have one?
Well, I have a little Lively. It's sort of like Jim.
Oh, good.
I'm very untechy. I had to have a child's thing. I really
stay that way. Anybody who's watching today, if you have an iPhone, take it out and go into settings. From settings, scroll down to general and hit that. Then go all the way down to legal and regulatory and hit that. 4 down, you'll see RF exposure, which is radio frequency radiation, which is two-way microwave radiation that they politely call energy in this fine print disclaimer. And when we read that, it tells us it was tested at a distance from the body. And what do? We hold it right in our hands. We put it up to our heads. We put it in our shirts or our bras or our waistbands or our back pockets or our front pockets. And the science goes on and on and on.
Did you present this at the school, and how was it taken by these people?
It was a difficult conversation to have because, mind you, that industry had gotten in there at the state level, promoting to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education that we need to have all this technology for our kids to succeed. And then they changed the curriculum and they embedded technology into the curriculum. And so when you bring this up to your school committee, they look at you like deer in the headlights because we've all spent money on it. We've all been told we have to have it, and if we don't do it, maybe our jobs are on the line in our state evaluation.
Did you have something like an alternative for them?
All you have to do is hardwire your technology, and it's not rocket science.
On the back for me.
On the back of your router, you've got Ethernet ports.
On the computer, right?
On the computer, or your signal is coming into your home or into your school through a cable that is attached to the building that's attached to your router. On the back of the router, there are Ethernet ports. You just run Ethernet cables again. And who knew that there's a little $30 adapter you can buy to hook up a cell phone? Right? To do anything you would do on the internet. And then for me, it took me a while, and I circled my tail as I was investigating the science. And I finally said, it's my job as mom to protect my family. So we hardwired, and literally all that means is running cables to your devices, but then you have to go into the device and turn off all the antennas. So this one device has a cellular and a data antenna, a Bluetooth, a Wi-Fi, a locator, and a hotspot. And each one of those, if we leave them on, is over there going, here I am, where are you, here I am, where are you, trying to connect with the nearest cell tower or router. And today's message is certainly not no technology. It's safe and even better technology. Wireless, everybody knows your signal falls apart. It can be slow, unreliable. Your data is flying through the air. It consumes 10 times more energy to run wireless systems than simply using cabling.
Well, I know when you're on Route 140, if you're heading for Milford, coming back, there is this, I call it the dead zone. And even the radio talk shows I listen to, gone. Yeah, I mean, you figure another couple of minutes and...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but we've been conditioned that we have to have a connection all the time.
Yeah.
Right? In our homes, if we have a landline, then you will always be able to call for emergency services. Or at least we used to, until they started convincing us that we should bundle everything together with phone, internet, and cable that are all electric dependent. So if the power goes out, and if your cell phone's not charged, how can you call for emergency services? So these industries in big tobacco fashion have come through, given us all the benefits, the convenience of the product, without telling us there are very serious risks. So this wireless technology started out around World War II as radar, right? Radio frequency.
Right.
And then it was brought into the commercial sector with no biological safety testing. And now the FCC has just been sued for ignoring 11,000 pages of science showing cancers, DNA damage, autism, Alzheimer's, ADD, ADHD, all these neurological effects because it's pulsating our brain. So the Earth has its own electromagnetic field, right? Or EMF is one of these acronyms in this alphabet soup. The Earth pulses this healing electron energy at 7.83 times per second. That's a hertz, 7 hertz per second.
Right.
Care to guess what our man-made frequencies are? So 2.4 megahertz that our Wi-Fi operates at, that's 2.4 million times per second. It's pulsing this spiked erratic radiation to carry our signals and data packets back and forth. When we get into the gigahertz range, that's billions. So we are literally overpowering our biological cells and every other living thing in the planet, right?
I wonder why there aren't more medical takes on this thing. We're not hearing more.
Well, I love that you say that we're not hearing more. The medical evidence is there. We don't hear about it because who owns mainstream media? Sit down for an hour of prime time and count how many telecom ads you hear.
Yeah, probably they don't want to deal with the big the companies that do all this type of thing. One thing that really gets me too, and Lori was mentioning it to me, and I want to ask you, the power lines, like I know over in Millbury, they have like a section of the street. Wow, I mean there are tons, and people who live really near is that a danger too?
It is. There is science showing that those low-level electromagnetic fields are also carcinogenic.
Gosh.
But they don't care.
No.
You know, it's follow the dollar. It's the big tobacco playbook all over again, and today's flavor is wireless.
We're talking with CeCe Doucette, and she is the founder and director of Massachusetts for Safe Technology. CeCe, you brought a big poster. Show us what that's all about.
I did. So, you know, I spoke about the long-term effects of cancers, DNA damage, autism, Alzheimer's. A lot of people are experiencing microwave symptoms today, but they would never know to even think about, well, what if I just turn all this stuff off? Might I feel better? So this poster...
Did you design it yourself?
No, I did not. There's a group in Michigan who designed it for an organization called We Are the Evidence.
Good poster.
Yeah. So, and this comes out of military studies that were done decades ago.
What are your symptoms caused by your wireless device?
Yeah. So, brain effects, stabbing, searing headaches that our doctors can't figure out. Insomnia is a huge one, and now we know scientifically why this is a key factor. Mm-hmm. So we run off of our circadian rhythm by light, right? Mm-hmm. All of our organs do a different reset based on whether it's day or night and what time in that circadian cycle it happens. In the wee hours of darkness, the brain is meant to release melatonin from the pineal gland. Melatonin regulates our sleep and also helps to escort the toxins out through the bloodstream from everyday cell repair and regeneration. The brain can't distinguish between natural daylight and this man-made light energy form of microwave radiation. So it's over there pulsing away, and our brain's going, okay, when's it going to get dark?
Yeah, never.
And so with just a little bit of education, people will say, I didn't want to know this, I didn't want to believe it because I depend on my technology. Mm-hmm. The message is not no technology, it's safe technology. So they'll say, I turned it off.
Tinnitus, here we go, tinnitus.
The ringing in the ears, or even just this cottony humming.
Yeah.
Some people get it so bad it sounds like a freight train coming through.
I've heard about that.
Right?
Yep.
So difficulty breathing, memory problems, chronic fatigue. There's a Dr. Andrew Goldsworthy over in the UK, and he explains it that our biological cells only have so much energy, and they're pretty well calibrated to do normal cell repair and regeneration and get us through our days and nights. And now we've added on this whole level of electrosmog, so our cells are in there trying to do the best they can, but we get to a tipping point, and then we start having these types of issues. So stabbing, sharp pain, sensitive to noise, and skin. The science is showing that we have little antennas in the surface of our skin that are meant to help us navigate through our world, right? When we bombard our skin, some people will talk about getting the hot ear when they have their cell phone up. Yeah. My tell is my pinky finger starts to tingle.
Okay, you get
right? And the science now shows us why that is. Mm-hmm. Our red blood cells are meant to free float and bring oxygen to all of our organs and systems. There's something called the rouleau effect, which in my little brain I think of the candy Rolos. It's a stack of caramels. Mm-hmm. Instead of free floating, this electromagnetic field starts to magnetize our red blood cells into a clump where they then can't get to oxygenate all of our cells. Yeah. And what the doctors know who have investigated this is that oxidative stress is a precursor to chronic illness. So,
before we forget, we're talking with CeCe Doucette. CeCe, can you tell them how to reach you?
Sure. I'm the director of Massachusetts for Safe Technology. If you go online, you just simply type in MA, the number 4, safetech.org. Or you can email me at ma, the number 4, safetech@gmail.com.
All right, keep going. That's great.
So, skin tingling, somebody who carried the cell phone in the pocket for a long time. A gentleman in Framingham started having neurological problems in his leg. The nerves were going jiggity. Itching, facial flushing, mood. This is a neurotoxin. We were at epidemic proportions of anxiety and depression even before the pandemic. It is a neurotoxin. Children with anxiety and depression and suicidal ideation that we have never seen before.
They've got their noses in those things constantly. If you go out to a restaurant, it's bizarre to see, let's say, two couples sitting opposite. They're not even, they're just, what's the point?
I know.
What's the point of going out?
Right.
Yep.
So, and again, it's nobody's fault among the public. We simply didn't know. But when we know better, we can do better. So it definitely affects our vision, our eyes, and heart. It can cause our heart rate to go too fast or too slow, depending on your biological proclivity. Arrhythmias, somebody's described it as sometimes it feels like somebody's sitting on their chest when they get into a high Wi-Fi environment. So we know scientifically that this microwave radiation is causing a lot of this. And when you talked about the medical community, when I fell down the rabbit hole 10 years ago, we had a major gap in that people are getting sick and they're getting misdiagnosed. In worst cases, they will send you off to a psych ward because they're going to tell you it's all psychosomatic. These are biological responses to an environmental toxin. So now we have an EMF, or electromagnetic field, medical conference for doctors, for nurses. There are 2 different pathways for 24.5 continuing medical education credits.
Yeah.
Our firefighters need to have continuing education credits too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
They need to be trained, because if they are on the front lines of somebody who's suffering desperately from microwave sickness and they don't know, they're the ones who get them into the psych ward.
What's the difference between if you get radiation in the hospital, right? You have your treatments there, versus having it where we shouldn't be having it with the cell phones? What's the difference?
That is such a great question. In a controlled medical setting, you have full control over where that radiation is going and for how long.
Yeah.
In this ubiquitous, uncontrolled way that industry has rolled this out, we have no control other than what we have purchased ourselves. So if people want to go to that EMF Medical Conference, they should just type in EMF Medical Conference 2021. It's been recertified to go through this summer, but you have to register by June 15th and complete the training by the 21st.
Which reminds me, you have an event coming up on April 28th. Tell us about that.
We do here in Upton. Great thanks to Lori Woden. She has been following this issue for quite some time. She's a retired school teacher and very active in the community of Upton, and she's brilliant. So she understands the biological effects of this. And as we tune into this, we learn that important things change through 3 channels. 1, the public learns and becomes engaged. That's what our hope is today. 2, it goes through the courts. And 3, public policy catches up, in this case, to the science. So the FCC has been sued for ignoring 11,000 pages of scientific, medical, and public testimony showing the harm. So the FCC got taken to court, and the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in Washington, D.C. looked at literally 27 binders full of evidence of harm and said to the FCC, so how could you just reaffirm your public radiation limits when the science is showing you guys allow this much and the harm is happening at hundreds of thousands of times below
What
that?
was the response to that?
The court said to the FCC, you need to account for the science and you need to account for the impact on children, because they're not just little adults. Their DNA is still under development, their central nervous system and all of this. You need to account for long-term effects, because the only testing they did was for 6 minutes at a distance.
Yeah.
Right?
6 minutes at a distance. What was the distance? Inches?
At least 5 millimeters. But with the inverse square law of physics, the further you get, it multiplies out the safety. So even 5 millimeters. Yeah.
You have to, like,
Yeah. So the FCC got sued. The court said you need to account for the effects on children, for long-term effects, for infertility, and for the environment, because it's every living cell on the planet. And our poor pollinators are disappearing by the species, by the dozens. So,
CeCe, how did you get into this?
My friend Wendy at Book Group tipped us off that there could be something up, and that's when I started the conversation with my schools.
Best practices for mobile devices. Read them, children.
So Ashland Public Schools hangs this in our classrooms. Turn off these devices when we're not using them. That will begin to reduce your exposures. Turn the Wi-Fi on only when you need it. Let's not leave it there going, hey, looking for a handshake with your device and pulsing radiation at us 24/7. Always place the mobile device on a solid surface, because even that legal fine print right in our devices tells us that. So we became the first in the nation to do this, but they're still waiting for higher authorities to actually protect the children.
Have you presented this at all to UMass, for example? UMass Medical School, the university itself. Have you? Because
I have not presented there, but that's a lovely idea, and if you have contacts there, please introduce me.
Oh boy, there's places there's Milford up the street. I don't know how far you'd get, but UMass. Other than that, in Boston, I mean, they're the top the top places, but they've got the med school research.
Yes, and the first textbook on electromagnetic radiation has just come out of Greece. Dr. Panagopoulos partnered with Dr. Anthony Miller, who was a senior advisor to the World Health Organization out of Canada, and they have experts from all over the world, and so now we have a medical school textbook on this, and a medical conference. So
there's research right up at UMass Medical, right up there too.
Right, and I was actually brought in to present to the Shrewsbury Board of Health, and I guess I have presented because the director of their health board worked for UMass Medical, so maybe the answer is actually
this
yes.
is great. You know, also community centers, senior centers. There's so many places to get the word out.
Invite me in. I love to get out and connect with people because I know tonight they can choose to have a sleep sanctuary. So back to the event that's coming up on the 28th at 6 p.m.
Where?
At the church in Upton.
The United Parish.
The United Parish at 1 Church Street, I think it is. So, as I was saying with Lori Woden, she and other citizens have figured this out, that wireless is harmful. And they have introduced a citizens petition that they got everybody necessary to sign to put an article on town meeting warrant article. And in that they say, let's put a pause on any more build-out of wireless infrastructure until the FCC completes its court-mandated requirement to assess the science. So the science is clearly showing harm. Why would we allow small cell antennas or any more build out of the big cell antennas anywhere near where we go to school or we live or we work or we play in recreation fields? There's a big storm brewing in Michigan right now at a school. One of the telecom companies put up a cell tower right on this school. It hasn't gone live yet. But the parents became educated on this, and they're like, we do not want a cell tower on our schools. How did we get this? Well, the school signed a contract with the carrier. And now that they know the harm, you would think that our public servants would step up and say, of course, our first duty is to the health and well-being, especially of the children at an elementary school. But they didn't do that. And so just this week, the superintendent of schools was made to resign.
CeCe, again, how can they get a hold of you?
Massachusetts for Safe Technology. If you go to our resources page, you will find links to the biological effects, what the industry is telling our towns, what's happening in the courts. We have 6 bills here in Massachusetts. New Hampshire has already passed a bill. They are the first government in the country to do the deep dive. And this is the best document in our country today. They document the conflicts of interest with the FCC, the FDA, and the wireless industry. They've got revolving doors up there. They are not protecting you and I. And they make 15 recommendations to choose hardwired connections as the first choice in technology, because wireless is no longer advanced technology.
CeCe, are there places where you are available to give, how far would you be able to travel to give presentations about this?
I'll travel. I'm a tech writer by trade, and I walked away from my career to do this, so if people can reimburse me for my time and travel, I'll go anywhere.
Also, have you thought of publishing your own book on this?
One day when I slow down enough, I would like to.
Okay.
There are some excellent books out there, and if you go to Massachusetts for Safe Technology on the resources page, one of the links is to books.
We've been talking with CeCe Doucette. She is the founder and director of Massachusetts for Safe Technology, and this is fantastically interesting. I mean, over the years, I've basically heard about it off and on. But then, while talking with you, this really hits home. It really does. And I don't know how it's going to catch on enough. Do you?
We are trying. You know, like I said, it goes through public education, then it goes through the courts, and ultimately public policy catches up. And we've got really good inroads going in all over the nation and all over the world for this. So, but it comes down to all of us just taking a pause and looking for ourselves. You know, don't take our word on any of this, But go look at the peer-reviewed science. There was another one that just came out about protecting children. And as a mom, I was a big fan of the Environmental Working Group because they do their Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen on pesticides.
Yep.
So what produce should you buy organic? What can you get away with conventional? They are now on this issue, and they have come out with fact sheets at the Environmental Working Group on the need to protect children and on the neurotoxicity and other fact sheets that they put forward.
There's so many places that you could connect with.
So I encourage people, reach out through Massachusetts for Safe Technology.
Yeah.
Educating is my happy place. I have a bachelor's in communication, a master's in technical and professional writing, and I'm one of 10 kids, so I popped out of the womb.
Were you the youngest?
Yes.
You were the last one?
Yeah.
Oh.
The bottom of the totem pole.
How many did you say, 10?
10. So,
all related?
All related.
Not just an intermarriage?
Same mom and dad.
Your mother went through that?
She was amazing.
I had one. That's enough.
Yes. Well, she always said it was easier to have 10 than it would have been to raise just one, because after a few, they just have to start taking care of each other.
Oh, well, we got about 3 minutes left. And again,
Okay.
we've been talking with the founder and director of Massachusetts for Safe Technology, CeCe Doucette. One last time, CeCe, how can they get a hold of you?
MA, the number 4, safetech.org. That will get you to Massachusetts for Safe Technology online. We do 2 free public education webinars every month. So wherever you join this conversation, we can give you up-to-date information and allow you to ask questions at the end. So
now, and don't forget
please
that,
come.
April 28th, Friday, March 27th. Wait a minute. This says March. Oh, April 28th. Okay, April 12th. I'll say, wait a minute here. April 28th, Friday, 6 p.m. at the United Parish Church, 1 Church Street in Upton. And what is the title going to be? Because you're going to grab some interest here. What are you going for, title?
Well,
2 minutes
we just say wireless risks
Yeah.
and safer technology solutions. We don't want to kid ourselves. There's no safe level of man-made microwave radiation in the scientific literature.
Right.
The Centers for Disease Control with radiation says, keep as much distance as you can, spend as little time as you can in the radiation, and if you have to, shield. There is a profession called building biologists. They are highly credentialed to come in and assess a school or a workplace or a home and make a report to tell you what your exposures are.
Do we have them here in Massachusetts?
They're few and far between. There's one gentleman who's completing his certification right now, and he will be servicing this area.
I know she has much more to talk with us about. We should have you back on again.
In a heartbeat.
Definitely. Thank you for being with us, CeCe. We'll see you next time and be my guest.
Thank you so much.
Riding on a shooting star, heading out toward a dream. Tomorrow's even closer than it seems.